A warm welcome to the program. I'm Amarachi Ubani. We've been watching the international community's response to the arrest of leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, with the UK government expecting an explanation from the Nigerian government regarding circumstances surrounding Mr. Kanu's arrest, while the Kenyan government denies it was even aware Kanu was arrested in the country. I'll tell you why in a second. But keep in mind, IPOB is a group that wants a breakaway state in Nigeria's southeast. It has a great following in that part of the country with sympathizers all over the world. Interestingly, the group is proscribed in Nigeria as a terrorist organization.
It will interest Nigerians to know that for over 2 years, our security and intelligence agencies were on the trail of the proscribed IPOB leader as he lived a five-star life across several countries, traveling on chartered private jets, living in luxurious apartments, and turning out in designer clothes and shoes. We can tell you that the forensic investigation carried out so far has revealed a treasure trove of information on the proscribed IPOB leader and his collaborators. While the investigation continues, we assure you that none of the collaborators, irrespective of their standing in the society, will be spared. It is also interesting that many are suddenly calling for a fair trial for Kanu, as if he didn't get one before. He decided to jump bail and flee. However, I can assure you that the fair deal that Kanu denied many of the victims of the violence which he willfully instigated through his broadcasts and tweets will not be denied him.
The Nigerian government is yet to disclose details of Kanu's arrest, leaving room for speculation how it even happened, and the countries and agencies involved in this ultra undercover mission. So far, the government has said his arrest was made possible by the diligent efforts of Nigerian security and intelligence agencies in collaboration with countries with which Nigeria has obligations, and that Nigeria continues to respect and honor these obligations. But according to Nnamdi Kanu's brother, Mr. Kanu was in Kenya when he was arrested. Abducted is more how he describes it. His family says he was subjected to extraordinary rendition by Kenya and Nigeria, and both countries must be held to account and demand justice. Channels Television spoke to immigration lawyer Dayo Fadino about whether any international conventions were violated with this arrest.
The Nigerian government indeed owes the British government an explanation as to the circumstances surrounding Nnamdi Kanu's arrest. First of all, Nnamdi Kanu is a British citizen, so the British government has every reason and every right to know of his situation and where he was arrested, his present condition as to where he is, because indeed, if it was the case that there was no legal proceedings from the country where he was arrested, just picked up and put onto a plane and brought back to Nigeria, that would be quite illegal. It would be illegal, an illegal abduction, I would say. It would also be an illegal detention of the person, and that would be in breach of his human rights, really. And indeed, there would also be a breach of, a few international conventions as far as international law is concerned.
Mr. Fadino, I know we cannot speculate at this point the circumstances surrounding the arrest, but you have to agree it is quite unusual for a Nigerian citizen to be arrested and deported without the knowledge of the host country where he's been picked from, right?
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon. In sooth, it is quite unusual for any Nigerian citizen to be arrested and deported without the knowledge of the host country. A very strange situation and strange circumstances. the Attorney General of Nigeria, I was listening to him about 2 days ago. Till date, he has not actually disclosed what country Nnamdi Kanu was, arrested or, detained. He has also not disclosed whether there was in fact any form of legal proceedings to do with an extradition treaty in between that particular country was picked up and Nigeria. And the circumstances are so strange and a little bit confusing for so many people, because if it's the case that he was picked up and picked up in any country, that would be very, very disturbing. For him to just be abducted and brought back to Nigeria, it's all speculation. But the fact that the Attorney General is not ready to disclose where he was picked up and whether there was any form of arrangements or legal arrangements in between both country and Nigeria, we are going to continue speculating and not know of the full facts of the situation.
You know, Nnamdi Kanu faces treason-related charges. He still deserves a trial, a fair one. But given his history and the charges before him, can he still be entitled to one? And what could the legal procedures from here on out?
First of all, Nnamdi Kanu is entitled to a fair, transparent, open hearing. And is also entitled to be treated fairly. Because at the end of the day, if justice is to be done concerning all the charges against him, it cannot be seen by the whole world that this man is not been treated fairly or heard fairly in the court of law. I remember the last time he was detained. I think this was in 2015 or so. It took a long time before they could even bring any charges against him. In fact, he was in jail for, I think, a few years before being released on bail. And I hope this is not going to continue this time around. I hope there's a swift hearing of this very particular matter. After all, the Nigerian government believes that they have all these charges against him and that they could prove these charges in court ASAP. So I hope he's not going to be detained for too long. And I hope this situation is addressed ASAP, or else, if it's the case that he's not treated fairly and he's not been given a fair hearing, it could spell disaster really for Nigeria, because whether hates Nnamdi Kanu or like him, there are so many supporters of Nnamdi Kanu, particularly in the south eastern part of Nigeria, and I don't think they will be sitting tight and believing that if anything should go wrong with him or anything happens to him, they would not even agree to that at all. So I hope there's a swift, fair hearing and it's treated under the rule of law.
Nnamdi Kanu was granted bail in April 2017 but jumped bail after flouting some of the conditions given by the court. He disappeared, his whereabouts unknown, until he was brought to court in handcuffs in Abuja on Tuesday last week. The government accuses IPOB of being behind attacks on police formations in the southeast and accuses Nnamdi Kanu of causing the death of 60 persons in 4 months. The government says Nigeria's security and intelligence services have been on the trail of the IPOB leader, and the Minister of Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, took a swipe at Kanu's luxurious lifestyle, claiming he lived a 5-star life across several countries, traveling on chartered private jets, living in luxury apartments, and turning out designer clothes and shoes, but still promises a fair trial for the IPOB leader. Mr. Kanu still faces 11 charges, including treason, terrorism, and illegal possession of firearms. His case resumes in court on July 26th to 27th. There's yet to be more response from the international community on the issue, further than the UK government, which had earlier said that they hoped due process will be followed in the case. Mr. Kanu is a United Kingdom citizen, and the British Commission, the High Commission that is, says it is ready to provide consular assistance on the issue of Mr. Kanu's British nationality. Let's check in on other discussions in diplomatic circles. We'll be right back.
Ours is that it was a tragedy.
NIDCAM chairman Abike Dabiri Arewa condemned the alleged killing of Nigerian footballer Kelvin Iguani by the UK police. The Thames Valley Police said in a statement that officers were called to a property in 2 Mile Hash Northwest Milton Keynes on June 26 and made a forced entry after acting on information from a witness. Inside, they said they found a man in his 30s who was later confirmed dead and a young child with serious injuries. They also found the Nigerian footballer Kelvin Iguani, to whom it was understood officers used a taser run before firing at him, killing him. Mrs. Abike Dabiri Arewa described the incident as very unfortunate and sad. Nigeria's ambassador to the state of Qatar, Yakubu Abdullahi Ahmed, has presented his letter of credence to His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Ahmad Al Thani, the Emir of the state of Qatar. During the credential presentation ceremony in Doha, the ambassador expresses gratitude to President Muhammadu Buhari for finding him worthy of the appointment and conveyed to the president good wishes to his host. He noted the slow pace of economic activities between both countries and sought the support of his host in eradicating obstacles to the flow of investment in agriculture, oil and gas, infrastructure and mining between the two. Top UN officials have warned the Security Council that more than 400,000 people in Ethiopia's Tigray region were now in famine and that there was a risk of more clashes in the region despite a unilateral ceasefire by the federal government. However, the Tigrayan rebels say they must be recognized as the region's legitimate government before they accept any ceasefire. They also want the withdrawal of Eritrean troops from the region. International calls are growing for a ceasefire in order for aid to reach the millions of victims of the war.
One of the most distressing trends is an alarming rise in food insecurity and hunger due to conflict. More than 400,000 people are estimated to have crossed the threshold into famine, and another 1.8 million people are on the brink of famine. Some are suggesting that the numbers are even higher. 33,000 children are severely malnourished, and moreover, the food insecurity crisis will continue to worsen during the impending rainy season.
The UK's Housing Minister Robert Jenrick says mask wearing in England will become a matter of personal choice once coronavirus restrictions are removed.
Well, I don't particularly want to wear a mask. I don't think a lot of people enjoy doing it. We will be moving into a phase, though, where these will be matters of personal choice. The data that we're seeing, that the Prime Minister is reviewing at the moment ahead of his decision point on the roadmap, looks very positive. It does seem as if we can now move forward and move to a much more permissive regime where we move away from many of those restrictions that have been so difficult for us and, as you say, learn to live with the virus.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson confirmed on June 28th that most restrictions in England will end on July 19 on what he dubbed Freedom Day by the government.
Welcome back. The Communist Party of China last week began celebrating 100 years since its founding. The celebrations kicked off with General Secretary of the party and President of China, Xi Jinping, delivering a keynote speech at a grand gathering of 70,000 people celebrating the CPC centenary at the Tiananmen Square in Beijing on July 1st. While the bulk of his message was to the Chinese people, commending them for the growth and progress made in the country so far, he took a swipe at the international community, saying, "We Chinese are a people who uphold justice and are not intimidated by violence and threats of force. As a nation, we have a strong sense of pride and confidence. We have never bullied, oppressed, or enslaved the people of any other country, and we never will. By the same token, we will never allow any foreign force to bully, oppress, or enslave us. Anyone who would attempt to do so are bound to find themselves crushed against a great wall of steel forged by over 1.4 billion Chinese people." He also said China will stay true to the letter and spirit of the principle of one country, two systems, under which the people of Hong Kong administer Hong Kong and the people of Macau administer Macau, both with a high degree of autonomy. No one should underestimate the resolve, the will, and the ability of the Chinese people to defend their national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The spotlight has been on China over the last year, especially with the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic. Research into the source of the pandemic has put China at odds with the United States. So also China's military development and its latest space launch. The country also announced earlier this year that it had eradicated poverty. Apparently, the West feels threatened by China's growing economic and military prowess. NATO and the G7 called for caution in countries' relations with China. A while back, I spoke to the Chinese director of the Confucius Institute at the University of Lagos, Professor Zhao Hongling, about the pandemic and why China may be seen as a threat.
In 10 years, China will be #1, economically speaking, in the world. So I think many Nigerian youth want to go abroad to look for better jobs, right? To help the country to grow better, economically stronger. I think China is a good example to learn from. So that's why Chinese is important.
Western countries believe that China is infiltrating Africa, using soft power, for example, language, culture, and all these investments to gradually take over African economies. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what you said is part of the conspiracy theory or China threat theory. Okay, China, we have more than 5,000 years old history. In the history, in the 5,000 years, we have never conquered any or invaded any country in the world. Okay, that's one truth, right? It's different from what happened to the U.S., which has only 200 years history. Okay, wars everywhere. Of course, what you said is partly true, that China is helping Africa, let's say throughout Africa, to help build the infrastructure, okay? Airports, bridges, the highways, right? So we are helping it under the principle to benefit each other, okay? We call that a win-win history, win-win principle, win-win. Both parties win each other.
You talk about a win-win situation, but what is the win for China?
Win, of course, we will get some, partly some maybe natural resources like minerals or oil, okay, which is the materials for the production of a lot of products, right? Then that's true. It is the benefit of the victory of China. But at the same time, African people, African countries will learn the new technologies. They will get better infrastructure, right, to help their economy to grow better, like what have happened in North Africa, in Egypt, in Ethiopia, in a lot of countries, okay? And also, Chinese government also are donating a lot of materials or even money to some African countries who are extremely, underdeveloped, all right? Who that have some special difficulties. Many news about China in the Western media, in America, in Europe, they are not true. They only tell the dark side theories, not the ordinary of the stories under the sunlight. Okay, they made a lot of conspiracies, like what you said, Xinjiang cotton, that, the Tibetan, and also the Taiwan issue, which are, I think, the core issue of China. So a lot of theories, people in the West, they make money in order by hating China, by making rumors about China.
So you're saying that, the billions of dollars in investment in, roads in Nigeria, in rail projects, in airport rehabilitation, all of these billions of dollars that are being pumped into the Nigerian economy, to improve infrastructure. There is no hidden agenda that China has on the continent or in Nigeria.
If it's the hidden agenda, I think it's just the economically mutual benefit, economic mutual benefit. All right. So Nigeria is rich in oil, right? So we can help Nigeria, and in return, Nigeria can give us some, make us share your natural resources, right? Of course, we build a lot of infrastructure here, right? Which make you look better, and you have improved your traffic, your transportation.
The concern I hear, from many Western countries about China is the transparency. They say contracts are being signed. I mean, the Chinese government will never come out to say this is how much investment they're making into, an economy in Africa, or will tell you what projects they're working on. They leave that to, the host governments to do that. But the complaint is that there is no transparency in these contracts. I mean, we hear about them, but what are the details? What are the fine lines?
Let's take the CI program, for example, okay? Where everything is written clearly in the contracts between the two parties, let's say BIT and UNILAG, okay? We have written everything clearly. Our mission is to teach the language and to, let's say, to hold some cultural activities to make the two people better understand each other, all right? So as to build a brighter future for both countries and for the whole world. That's our mission. It's written clearly, and what we should do also is written clearly in the contracts signed by the two parties.
A few months ago, China announced it had eradicated poverty. I mean, we saw it all over the news. There was a lot of celebration about it, a lot of interviews and discussion about, what the Chinese government did and all that. And other countries are asking, what are the indices for China? Because you go to certain parts of China, you still see poverty. So I'm asking you, what are the indices that China uses to measure poverty and its eradication?
I can give you this point from my own point of view. Of course, it is a great program for the Chinese government to get rid of poverty in China, especially in the remote areas where people are very poor. They have little, they even could not support themselves daily in the past. Nowadays, through moving them from, let's say, the inner part of the mountains into populated areas, they built buildings for them, and they also provided them with jobs so that they could make a living. They can make a living now. Majority of them, but not all of them. A small proportion of them, maybe they are still, although they said that it's eradicated, but maybe they are still living a kind of let's say, life of poverty in some areas, smaller areas. But basically, the majority of them have overcome the poverty.
The COVID-19 pandemic shed some negative light on China, especially with reports about the origins of the coronavirus, which was traced to a wet market in Wuhan. And, and then we know the WHO team did go into China to investigate. At the end, they decided, this was not where the coronavirus originated from, and lots of criticism followed that because they said the WHO, of course, had been compromised by Chinese authorities and they couldn't tell the truth. Where is the defense, for China in this about, the origins of the coronavirus, and what is the response to this?
Many, Western people, especially those people who, who are not friendly to China, they think it's a kind of conspiracy. But more people are realizing that China has made a great success in preventing the COVID-19 pandemic. We welcomed the WHO experts to come there to visit, to have investigations, and they have already got their conclusion. It was not a lab virus, okay? It was not coming from China. It was not China virus or Wuhan virus. No, not at all.
The other backlash that China has received, of course, is discrimination of Chinese people around the world because of, the term that the former U.S. president gave to the coronavirus, the derogatory term that he gave to the coronavirus. And so Chinese people were discriminated again. But then, on the other hand, there were reports last year of Africans being discriminated against in China. I mean, there were reports of people not being allowed into public spaces such as supermarkets and certain places because of the coronavirus. How do you respond to, the two different discriminations coming out of China?
When you are living in China, you have to follow the local orders, right? The local rules, the laws, local laws, right? Like I am staying here, I have to abide by the Nigerian laws, okay? The Nigerian governmental rules, and your whatever you have for your people, for your nationals in here. I have to follow that, right? If I disobey that, of course you will punish me, right? That's what happened in the Nigerians in Guangzhou. They disobeyed the, the order of the local community or local government, so that they would went into trouble.
I have heard reports that the Chinese mission in Nigeria is not issuing visas to Nigerians to go to China. And in some instances, they're insisting that people take the Sinovac vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, instead.
I believe the Chinese government is trying to to prevent the spreading outside of the country, okay? So not only, especially to Nigerian people, I believe, they are, in terms of the pandemic, they are treating every country, every nation the same.
Professor Zhao, my final question is, how long do you intend to stay in Nigeria, and would you like to stay longer?
I like the weather here. It's hot all the year round, and the people there here are all very, very friendly to me. I hope to stay here as long as possible, but I will stay here at least 2 years, and at most 4 years. At most 4 years. This is according to the agenda, okay? But I hope to stay here longer.
This is where we end the program this week. I want to thank you so much for watching. Concerning those developing stories, we'll continue to keep an eye on them for you. In the meantime, feel free to share your thoughts with me on Instagram or on Facebook. The handles are @AmarachiUbani on Instagram and Ubani Amarachi on Facebook. I'll see you again next time.